Hi everyone. Last video I was showing you how to make an extension for Amos Kittens. Today I was going to show you how to make some commands, those missing commands that the extension now reports an error on. So we are going to replace the error message and implement the correct function. So the command works as the documentation says. So let's get started. So first of all, what you can do is go to the directory, our craft directory, craft files, so we have kitty extension craft. This is the file that all the commands are in, and as you can see on the our normal commands, they will return an error 22 to so you get an error 22 in your interpreter, and it will return so those commands here basically are not working and has to be implemented. So what we do, we need to figure out how does this command work. So the first thing we have to do is find the documentation. The documentation for craft is there's a craft help. We can't run it from Amos Kittens. I don't think the interface language is complete enough, so we have to run it from Amos itself. So that's why we have UI. Yeah. As always, I run my UI without JIT because it's more stable and generally works better. There's different version of it. This is the 1.0.0 version or something like that. I know that's the 1.0.0 version is the JIT version. I don't remember. You can go here just so you know which version I'm using. I know people have problems with so it's the 0.8.28 version I'm using. I know some people have problems with Amos crashing or having problems with AI not working correctly. So, but this is the version I'm using for my tests, and it's basically a very basic Amos installation on Amiga OS 3.1. Nothing fancy. Yeah, the new 3.1.4 edition is also available, but it's, what can I say, the new features doesn't do me any good because I'm running in a virtual environment, and large disk support is not needed, and Amos doesn't really care about long file names, so yeah, you can use the old one. Let's see. Yeah. So, first of all, find craft. So the command I'm interested in writing is the char dump string. I want to know how this command works. So I have to look up the documentation since I'm working from documentation, not source code. Yeah. I would think this is a memory thing. No. This is what I hate about this documentation, is that I can't search in it. It looks very nice, but you know, I just have to know which category to look for. Oh no, that's a problem. You see the mouse cursor? Don't think I can actually get to. Yeah, it's a limit mouse or something. Yeah, it hits a wall here, so you can't actually pull down the scroll bar. You can't drag it sideways. Those are stupid things in Amos. So if it's not a memory function, maybe it's a string function. Char dump, yes, here we have it. This function dumps memory from add to add length. Address, I guess they are talking about here. All the characters that can't be printed, 0 to 31, 188 to 157 are converted to full stop character 46. That's very strange. 46. What symbol is that? 46. Okay, let's maybe work on for documentation. I find it easier to use Sublime on PC, but this is a problem because you can't see what I'm doing. But I'm going to just write some things here now, just quickly. So just I have the same documentation in my file as it written in the documentation there. So 1 to 31, 128 to 159 converted to char 46. Okay. So we want to test this function and see how it works. It will be interesting to see how this looks when we... So we're going to make a small example just to how we know how it works. So we can, for example, do like let's call it table, and that's dumped 256 values. Table, we do space, and we fill it with 256 spaces. We do for loop to 255, and we can just poke in the values. There are different ways you can do this. Of course, you can use you can build up the string one by one character. Yeah. Okay, it doesn't matter. We do okay, this should poke. I can do F1 here. I think no. I can do help. Yeah. So address number is poked into this. And this should produce an array with all the ASCII numbers. So we can put in the address and 256 characters, 1 to 255. I would assume it doesn't take out 0 to 256, because then, yeah, you know, it's hard to trust other people's code sometimes, you know. But as always, we need to make sure Amos Kittens doesn't quit too early, and we do that by putting in a wait key. Since Amos Kitten doesn't return to an doesn't return to director or to the editor, so we need something like that. Okay, we need a test example for this command. It's called shard dump. Okay. Yeah. And as you see, this is the output we got from Amos. Let's see what we can do if we run this from Amos Kittens. Note I'm running with lots of debug information now, because I don't know what is going on and what is going to happen when I test, so everything runs slow. Yeah. So I'm guessing that it now works and pokes all the values into the string, and does to do that 256 times, 0 to 255. That takes some time. Yeah. So what we got here was this. Not at all what you expected, I guess, and that's because yeah, the actual command isn't implemented. And what I did is in here is that I use char dump string. It was almost implemented, but it's the same as the hex dump string. So it converts and produces the wrong data. So this is a bit bad example actually. Let's remove what you don't need. We calculate the number of arguments here. We check the number of arguments. Is it 2 arguments? We run this code. Is it 3 arguments? We run some other code. Or if it's none of the if it's not 2 or 3 or whatever arguments that the command support, we can run the default, which removes the arguments and sets an error returns. Okay. So what we have here is address and length. That's correct for this function. That's so we don't need to change that. We have OER producing a new string, but it's the same size as the original string. That's something to be very important. But we can't use the original string because we do not know if is an address. We don't know which the address points, if it points to the actual if it's changed the address, we will change the content of the table. So we don't want to do that. We have to make a new string. That's fine. The string should be the same length as the original, as the data we are collecting. We do not need all this complicated stuff. So destination is the pointer, the actual pointer. This is a bit strange in almost because we have the PTR, which is not a pointer. It's the first character in the string, because the structure is allocated as a structure plus extra bytes. It's the first character. That is the destination pointer for the new string. Of course, we have the old string, so that's fine. So what what I like to do is make them temporary, because we're going to check it, and then we don't want to check. I will tell you. So if C equals or is greater than 0 and C equal C character is less or equal to 31, then this is 46, or if C is greater than or equal to 128 and C is less than 129. So I was thinking that actually we could do differently, but I see there's some because what if we took the range between 32 to 127 instead of doing it differently? But then I guess there's some symbols and stuff above 159 that we want to keep, so it becomes equally complicated. So we can just do like this. Okay, in that case C is changed to 46 according to the documentation, the character, and we write into the array of dest, and as you can see you can use pointers as arrays, but they have no upper or lower limit. That's very important. So let's do like this. That was one command. The other one where I'm interested is this one, and I want to do basically doing from top down from the list. So and the list is generated from the same source, so the documentation goes pretty much from top down. So I have another function that I want to implement, and but I can do that later. Let's just compile this for now. It should compile very quickly because there is an advantage to having things in a library. Disadvantage is that it takes very little time to compile, because now just has to compile one file instead of a large project. So that's good. Oh, warning comparison is always true due to limited range of data type. That's bad. Since characters can be an upper can be minus 120 to 120 or 0 to 256. You have to know. You have to have be sure that you don't end up here, because then you have a problem with this number. So it has to be an unsigned value from the 0 to 256, not a value from minus 27 to 228. So that's very important, and then of course it makes sense to change those to unassigned as well. And this is casting. If you are not a C programmer, it means that the value this returns should be interpreted as an pointer and not an integer. So it's a casting. It converts the value. If you do not have this, the compiler would either give me a warning about it, or it would stop. So depending on the compiler settings, etc., etc. So that we do not want. So we have to cast it to the type of variable that is defined here. So yes. Now we make it. We have to. It still says that it's always true due to limited range of data type. That's strange. Okay, let's just break it up and see what happens then. It's more stupid code, but if it works, who cares? Right. $706. Oh, that was unexpected. It's this line. So the second line. 702. It says that it's not the same as value. We won't have unsigned char, just to make sure. No, now it compiles. Let's remove, save. So strange. But really, we can just do, we don't have to check if it's larger or greater than, I think that's the point of it. It's always greater than, yeah, that's the point. Okay, so basically this will always be true because it's an unsigned char which cannot be less than 0. I think that's what it's compiler is complaining about. So removing that. Yeah, that was it. So the C compiler is telling you lots of information, and not always are the information very useful. Sometimes it's just nagging about things that doesn't really matter. Okay, install. So what I like to do is have this terminal up here. What I should do is close the emulator because it's very slow to run code when we are having the emulator in the background. So I'm going to do that. At least we have a lot of debugs, so it's going to take time anyway, but it's just it's going to speed up some. So I think it's worth doing. Yeah, that produces the result very quickly, and as you can see, we got exactly. We should get exactly what we have in the UI, but we will have a look. The thing is that it uses the Topaz 8 font, and but Amos replaces some of the symbols with its own symbols, so it might not look exactly the same because of that. I haven't really bothered with this because I feel it's, first of all, I feel it Amos' way of doing it that is a bit hacky. I mean, it modifies the font and introduces other symbols than the font actually contains, which could cause some problems, I guess. So I've written this to the test craft string. Oh no, that's a different test. To the shard dump. Let's have a look at that. Yeah, it looks pretty much the same. Almost. I do notice that yeah. It looks like this screen is tinier than this screen, which results in less letters on not sure. Let's try default. Maybe, I don't know. That's strange. That's 2 more characters in the screen I have than in the Amos screen. So very strange. Yeah, okay, so the command is implemented and now it works. So the first time we tried it didn't work, next time we tried after making the changes, and now it works. So basically that's what we have to do with every command in the documentation. We have to look at what it does and implement that. And now we're going to have a look at another one. This is unscramble. I have done the scramble version first, so Let's see. Scramble. This is scramble. So scramble takes on a variable, and it comes from the stack. It's not an address from anywhere, so it just modifies the stack. Basically, because the memory in the stack is just as large as the destination, which the previous version had. It's a bit complicated formula I have created here, but it scrambles the numbers so that you cannot see what the password is, basically, or the content of the string is. That's the intent for the function, which it scrambles the data. I don't think it was meant to be a strong encryption or anything like that, and it does something similar. I'm not sure exactly what is going on in the Amos version or in the craft versions, but I've done my best to scramble the text, and if you can unscramble that, then we can convert from and to. So as you see here now, that's a command that has not been implemented, and we have set the error to 22 and return, so the program exits because it doesn't know what to do with its command. We have to change that and implement this function. So let's copy. There's two versions of this set stack CMD. It's param and it's normal. So param is with parentheses around the argument, which are used. Normal is are commands with it that doesn't have that, and they also tell Amos Kittens when to execute command, because normal can only be executed at the next command, while param has to be executed on the last parenthesis. So those are different ways. So the commands are executed, which has to be, you have to know what you're working with. This command returns a value, so it's generally a param, while the normal is commands which do not return a value. So that's basically how to define that. So what I do is just copy this. This is the scramble, and we have to unscramble. Actually, the cool thing here is that I think, and the way I've written this is that the unscramble and the scramble would actually, it's the same routine, because it XORs the content of the password and the XOR value of the position. So it should actually be the same routine. We don't. So really, what I could do is maybe remove this and just use scramble, because it's the same routine. Should be the same routine. Let's have a test. Let's scramble. Now so this is a test I've written before. It was to see what happened in the text. Let's call this unscramble. And so what I want to do now is let's remove. We want to just make a password called password, and so basically okay. Okay, so you can see the original string and the decoded string are encrypted. And see, let's call it like just crypt. Okay, let's encrypt it. I wonder, maybe it actually does the same. I wonder, maybe let's see if it is the same routine, and that would be fun, because I think it is. It does. It's not, but okay. Well, the important thing is that the encrypted value is returned and can be read. So this is the encrypt, and we have our own routine. It doesn't really matter if you can encrypt this, scramble it 2 times or 3 times or 4 times or whatever. I guess it's a bit more sophisticated than just doing some XORs. Maybe it's using the first letter to decrypt or crypt the more. So I don't know. It doesn't really matter. It's on a bit stronger encryption than I have implemented in my version, but apparently, because you can crypt 2 or 3 or 4 times, that would not be possible with my encryption routine, since it's so simple. But again, it's clear text, the encryption routine, and it's meant to not be a complicated routine or anything like that. It's just meant to make it hard for people to really see the content. Yeah, you could probably use some stronger encryption or something like that, and run an external program or something like that. It would be totally possible to do that. Yeah. There's some fishy things going on, because it copies the turbo and the craft, and I think this is something to do with my XML files. It's possible that my update scripts haven't one of my update script. If I have removed delete in this update script, that would explain the problem. So I'm getting parasitic files from one project to another. Yeah, I did that. So that's the problem. Let's remove the parasitic files. Turbo. It's not a big deal, since I haven't worked on Turbo for some time, and if it's overwritten I have it in my old project, so not a big problem. I think I messed around with the wrong directories and all when I showed you this, so I had to do a lot of work after last session. But yeah, so yeah, now it's only the craft, not Turbo. Test craft and scramble. Yeah. So as you can see, it might not have produced the same ASCII as the other one, but it's not readable, and you get the same result back. It was very simple routine. We can call the same routine 2 times and we'll get the same as we had originally. So it only meant to make it hard to read what is the text string is in the text string. So that's primarily why it should encrypt anything. So it works. That's something we have to write in the documentation, that it's sort of the same, but not the same as the original. So so people know that it would scramble the text, but not in the same way as the original. For many programs this wouldn't be a problem, as long as there are no data files that is shared with some scrambled text or something like that. Like say you are sharing a high score list between a classic Amiga and Amos Kittens on Amiga 4.1. So long as you're not doing that, you're not having any problem with it. So that's the main problem we can have with it. I think also there's some other commands that has to be implemented, but okay. So I hope you guys learned something about how this works, and find it the motivation or interest to work on some commands. Maybe some commands that I haven't implemented, or there are maybe a few things you like to see in Amos Kittens that you have in classic Amos. Maybe you have your own extensions you want to implement. With these 2 examples and courses, I hope this makes it possible for you guys to start working on your own stuff. So good luck with that. I hope there'll be a larger Amos Kittens community, and of course I hope that the Amos professional community also stays alive, and Amos Factory guys is able to make some cool extensions or fix some bugs or stuff like that. But the way I'm seeing it for Amos Kittens is that it's not necessary for Amos Kittens to wait for that to happen. It's pretty much an Amos replacement after all project. So we don't need to wait for them to do that. Because the problem here is if you want to write your own extension is the token numbers were just generated from an original Amos extension. It causes some problems, but because you can't really do that without writing some assembler. I can show you how to do that if you want to, but it would make sense to not having to make an code in 68,000 for Amos Kittens, because it's a based thing. So we have to see how this goes, and maybe we can do something else entirely. But for this interpreter, it's important to stay compatible with Amos Pro, because that's the main focus on this is to be a legacy interpreter and be able to share Amos projects and program games and between the platforms. That's my main goal. So for this project, it's not important to reinvent the wheel, make it better or anything. It's already too fast. So for running 7 megahertz Amiga games, Amiga 500 games. So yeah, I mean we don't need to. And also I don't know if adding a lot of features would actually make anything any better, because I don't know, many people like actually limitations, and they like this is really be limited to 256 colors, or be limited to amount of memory or something like that, because then they have to, that's a challenge in itself to work with limitations. But yeah, I don't know. We have to see. You can make cooler stuff, or if you have a faster language, you can make the challenge of making something great in a slower language. It's yeah, it's hard to value. But I think the most important thing is that the language has to be easy to use and as little bugs as possible. So that's what we're working on. Maybe. So bye bye.